Okay, so ladies and gents, we have, as we said before the break, we have finished on morals, ethics, constitutional values, and code of conduct. We're now going to go into record keeping. So the way that we're going to do that, we're going to start with reading the section, which is section number 7 in your blue book. So in your, if we take a look here, look in our learner reference, it will be section 7. That is all about record keeping. Right, team member roles. No, there we go. Section number 7, and it's called keeping records. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 8 minutes to read that section on keeping records, section number 7 in your blue books, or otherwise known as your LRM if you're on electronic guides, and I'll give you 8 minutes to do that. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you've just taken a look at keeping records. All right. Now I want to just quickly talk through why do we keep records? What's important about keeping records? Okay.
All right, sorting something out. Students.
Say my via Bradley.
Um, all right, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yes, what I said is I will not be able to give you an answer now. I'm just busy sorting out something.
No problems, no problems. So why
I
we
will be
need
here,
to,
but I'm
that's
uh,
fine, don't stress. Okay. So
okay.
the reason why we need to keep records is obviously if things get to a legal situation, we need to have documentation. So we need documentation as evidence if we ever need to deal with legal issues. Another reason is that it can help us to solve problems. So if we have information available from the past, we might be able to solve problems a lot quicker. We also need documentation in order to, if we need compliance, so anything to do with labor inspections or any kind of quality inspections, we will be required to have evidence of what we have done and what paperwork we have kept. So we need it for a whole bunch of reasons. But ultimately, what kinds of information we need to record? Well, every organization is going to be different. So what it might be root cause analysis because we've had problems in the past and we want to keep it as documentation should we deal with that problem in the future. Employee files because obviously that is part of regulations and compliance. Sales figures because it helps us to look at patterns and trends that we might have to deal with. Disciplinary forms. Why? Because if it goes further, then we need to be able to have it as evidence. So every organization is going to have different records that they have to keep in order to make sure that they are moving forward and that they have all the necessary documentation. And then the next question is where? So in the old days, we used to have hard copies of everything, and everything was put into filing cabinets, and those filing cabinets all had a key. Nowadays, it's a little bit more complicated because we need to have online access because there might be people throughout the world that require those specific documentations. So a lot of documentation is scanned and then put into the intranet, and that is put in folders in those kinds of places. But ultimately, all of us need to have a strategy in terms of what we do with our records, how we keep them, where we keep them, who can gain access to them, and we need to make sure that those kinds of things are very clearly communicated to our teams and within our organizations. So, I think there was I just want to check, there used to be a value test. I'm going to make us do that value test. And that value test is at the back of your red files. So if you are with your red files, you will see on page number, so if you go to the back to the green pages, you will see that there is something on record keeping. So it is your 1, 2, 3. Your third last page in your red book is called record keeping, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer those 5 questions that are in record keeping. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go through those 5 questions and I will help you with the answers as we go through it. So question number 1 says record keeping. A good record keeping system, A, has electronic and hard copy evidence of all required records. B, includes all records in a format which works for the specific company, but which can be duplicated and easily retrieved, covering all required information to do with staff, finances, suppliers, clients, products, and services, which is essential for the running of the business. And C, must meet auditing requirements and be assigned to specific people whose job it is to keep, file, and retrieve all information as needed. So the truth is that if you're only keeping records for auditing purpose, you're not actually using it to its fullest, as well as electronic and hard copy records is a nice to have, but it really does depend on the specifications of your business. So the most correct is B, and that includes all records and which information it needs to deal with. So the more records we keep, we need to make sure that we can extract the data to be able to help us to make better decisions as a business. Then, record keeping is the responsibility of A, the office manager or head administrator, who may delegate it to the assistants, of every person in the company, depending on the records required to be kept in their area of responsibility, of everyone, but it occurs automatically wherever a sale or order is made and is logged onto the company computer system. Now, unfortunately, not every record is put into the computer system. A lot of our records are manual, and it is not just the office manager or their assistants. It is the responsibility of every person in the company. You must keep the records that pertain to your area of responsibility. Then question number 3, efficient record keeping keeps every bit of paper or information which passes through the company in one format or another in an extensive and thorough filing system. Only keeps the bare minimum of information required by the financial auditors, or is based on a system which can identify important and valuable or useful information from other information and keeps this in records which are easily retrievable and serve a practical purpose. So I think we can easily pick up that it is C, as it is the important things that need to be dealt with, and we need to be able to access it pretty easily. Question number 4. A supervisor would traditionally keep or have access to records on A, budgets, absenteeism, disputes, wastage, and breakdowns. B, daily performance sheets and team reports. C, team performance, including attendance, meeting of targets, supply, production, disciplinary and grievance, budgets and wastage, faults, and corrective actions. So if we are taking a look at the most comprehensive, it is definitely C. Then there's question number 5. There are 3 main categories of records. A, those which have some value, those which are very important, and those which are strictly confidential and only held by upper management. There, B, urgent, medium, and low priority reports, or C, records that have absolutely no value, reports which have personal value or use but are required by standard operating procedure or government, and records which have value and use to us personally in the performance of our duties. The most correct is urgent, medium, and low priority reports. Okay, so if you have got all of those correct, then you would have scored 100%. Otherwise, please just make sure that you have indicated which is the correct option of those 5 questions. Okay, let us carry on. So we've looked at why we keep records, where we keep records, who must keep the records, but let's take a look at what we need to do in our yellow books. So if you can go to page number 49 to 51, 49 to 51, we will be able to see what our necessary things are. So let's take a look here. So question number 12, explain why organizations record and keep information. So this is the why. Why do organizations record and keep information? So we had a little bit of a chat about it. So it's for things like to help us to problem solve, for legal reasons, to help us to make better decisions, to see any kinds of patterns or trends in our data, to be able to put together our financial reports, to give us better insight into the running of the business, to be able to analyze parts of the business, anything like that, guys. So you know why your organization keeps information. Now, that is why you are going to put down different answers to that question. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute just to write down what pertains to you and to your organization in question number 12. All right, now we've got question number 13 and 14, which is on page 50 and page 51. So this is again going to change per organization. So when you deal with it, please make sure that you think about your business, what you do, and what information and documents and records that you keep. Okay, so this one says, discuss how your organization handles records. Give at least 5 examples. So thinking about the whole business, this is what you need to do. So what records or documents do you keep? So health and safety incident reports. Great. Where is this stored or recorded? In the manager's office. Okay. How often is it stored or recorded? When an incident occurs. Why are these records kept? Well, for regulatory purposes and to avoid recurring issues or recurring incidents. Okay. Then what else? Disciplinary records. Where is this stored? It is stored with HR. How often is it stored? It is stored when a disciplinary process happens. Why are these records kept? For possible legal purposes. Okay. Then financial records. Where is this stored? With the financial manager. How often is this stored and recorded? Well, probably every day when we do financial transactions. Why are these records kept? So we can see the financial health of the business. So there's 4. You're supposed to give 5. So think about any other ones that you need in your organization in order for your organization to be good. So, anything from, we spoke about, what about employee files? Okay, where are they kept? How often? Designs, those kinds of things, maps, evacuation procedures, anything like that. And you tell me where it is kept, how often it is recorded or stored, and why are they kept. Okay, so that's for the whole organization. Now this is slightly different because question number 14 says, you as a team leader, what records and documents do you personally keep? So if you think about what you do for a living, what you do as a job, as a role, what are the records and documents that you need? So maybe it's daily targets. Where is this stored? It's on the notice board. How often is it recorded? On a daily basis. Why are these records kept? To see if we've made target or if there's any problems. Root cause analysis. Okay, where's this stored? It's in a quality file. How often is it stored? After every incident. Why are these records kept? So that we can make sure that we are solving problems in our department. What other things? Well, we might also keep records of quality issues. Where's this stored? It is stored also on our quality notice board. How often is this stored? After every shift. Why are these records kept? To ensure that our quality standards are upheld. So again, based on your job, your role, what are the documents, the records that you keep? Where is it stored? How often is it recorded? And why are we recording those specific things? Okay, so if you can do that question number 12, 13, and 14, then you are done in terms of record keeping. All right, so then we can move on. Number 1. Okay. All right, so we've taken a look at records and record keeping. So we've got all the way up to question number 14. Now we are going to look at meetings. And we've got different kinds of meetings, but the ones that they're really looking at is, especially within a production environment, taking a look at how we run things called stand-up meetings. Okay, so section number 11 is what I want you to look at. Section number 11 in your blue books. So I'm just going to show you exactly where you're going to find that. So in your learner reference material, we've just looked at records. Section number 11 is where we're going to deal with stand-up meetings. Okay, there you go. So section number 11, stand-up meetings. It has got 3 pages. So I'm going to give you 7 minutes to read stand-up meetings, section number 11 in your blue books. Okay, so 7 minutes starts now. All right, so section number 11 is all about stand-up meetings and how stand-up meetings work. Then we have got on section number 5, a couple of things that we need to work through because these are very important roles that are played during a team meeting. So if you have a sit-down meeting or a stand-up meeting, different people need to keep the conversation flowing, or they need to keep the discussion moving forward. If we don't have people playing specific roles, the meeting can sometimes get stuck, go into a loop, go into a spiral. But if these people are present, or if you play these kinds of roles, then it helps to move the whole thing forward. So the first one is someone called the summarizer. So a summarizer makes sure that there is consensus in order to reach a decision. Okay, so let's say people are going off topic, they are talking about things that really don't matter. What the summarizer does is they bring it all back together and they say, okay, it seems like we're in agreement with these specific parts of the conversation. Are you happy for us to go ahead? So what they pretty much do is they summarize the discussion, put it into a bite-sized chunk, and then try and seek agreement. That's what a summarizer does. Then we've got someone who is a redirector. Now, a redirector, when people go off subject or they go off tangent or they're talking about things that are unrealistic, what they do is they bring everyone back into the discussion. Okay, we were talking about quality control measures, you talking about budgetary issues. Let's go back to the topic. They often use the agenda to try and pull people back, and they make sure that we are actually talking about the right subject. Okay, so that's what a redirector does. Now they move you back onto the subject, back onto the topic. Then you've got someone who is a paraphrast. Okay, a paraphrast is the person that comes in to go, is this actually doable? Is this actually, are we able to implement this? So someone says, you know what, we need to replace all the lights with solar lighting. Now, the paraphrast goes, yeah, that's absolutely great, but a couple of things. Do we have enough sunlight to do this? Do we have enough budget to do this? Are we able to get an electrician? Do we have an on-site electrician? So all of those kinds of things, a paraphrast will just say, are we able to actually do this? And that's what a paraphrast does. Then we have a rephraser. Okay, so a rephraser always gets the team back on the right foot by beginning the discussions with the question, how should we approach this task? So yes, we agree to the solar lighting. Now, how are we going to do it? Well, we need someone that's going to draw up the specs. We need someone who can do the installation. We need someone who's going to put up the finances. So the rephraser is always going, okay, well, that's great. This is how we are going to approach this problem. Then we've also got a gatekeeper. Now, a gatekeeper is not someone who just opens the door and closes the door. A gatekeeper is trying to get people into the conversation. Now, there are times where people will dominate the discussion, and we need to try and stop them from dominating. And there's also people that might not contribute because they are introverts or because they are being intimidated by the louder people. Maybe there's certain people that are subject matter experts and they don't want to say anything. But a gatekeeper makes sure that all the voices are heard, so that all the opinions are brought, all the solutions are thought about. And that's what a gatekeeper does. Then we've got someone who is a repeater. Now, a repeater is someone who builds energy and ideas through making sure that there is a positive vibe that is going through. So these are the people that say, hey, Johnny, that's a fantastic idea. How do we build on that a little bit further? Very good point. Yeah, we weren't thinking about that. So these are the guys that chip in, they say certain things, they create a positive energy that encourages further discussion. Then we've got a harmonizer. A harmonizer is someone who tries to ensure that the conflict doesn't take over. So, two people from different sides of the organization might be having an issue. So maybe it's quality and production, and they are so talking at each other rather than to each other. And a harmonizer is someone says, hey, listen, what is the common goal? Where are we all going? Um, that's a very good point, but it's too emotional. Let's look at the facts. So harmonizer is trying to reduce the amount of conflict, making sure that we are all on the same page, making sure that this is a healthy discussion that we are having. Then we have an analyzer. Okay, analyzer looks for things that are changing in the team and brings this to the attention of others. So when you start to hear people that are drifting off, the energy levels is falling, or they're not focusing on the facts anymore. What an analyzer does is actually tells the team, this is what's going on. Guys, our energy levels drop. Maybe we should just take a 5-minute break. Analyzer might also go, I think we're talking about the wrong report. Let's go back onto this report. It's got more data about what we are trying to achieve. So the analyzer is making sure that the whole team is actually moving in a positive direction, and then sort of is able to see how the things are falling, gives perspective to how the team is having their discussion. Okay, so those are different roles that people play in order to bring about a positive result from every debate, discussion, and meeting. Okay, so that is about meetings. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to do 2 tests that are in the back of our red box. And the one is called facilitating team meetings, and the other one is going to be called stand-up meetings. So if you go to the back of your books, back to the red book again, at the back there are the green value tests. So what I want you to please do is to go to the value test that talks about facilitating team meetings, and the one that talks about stand-up meetings. And then we are going to mark both of those. So you'll find that it's the second test. So if you go to where the green tests start, you'll see the first one is about adult learning. The second one is about stand-up meetings. And the third one is about facilitating team meetings. I want you to do those 2. So stand-up meetings and facilitating team meetings. And once you have completed that, so I'm going to give you 8 minutes, then we are going to mark them to see if we are on the right page in terms of the theory and the fundamentals behind those 2 kinds of meetings.
Hi, Ryan. Hello. Oh, I can't hear you.
No, my mic was off.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Are
Yes,
we
Reza.
supposed to do this value test?
Yes. So the
Okay,
2 value tests, the one is called stand-up meetings, and
okay,
the other one is called facilitating meetings. They're
okay,
right behind each other. So there's 5 for stand-up meetings, and there's 5 for facilitating team meetings.
okay. And then I see there on top it says each question has 3 possible answers. Please make an O around the correct answer using column 1. So,
Yeah. So
um,
if you take a look here, so let's say a stand-up meeting is, and you say, I agree with C, then you just put a circle around C in column
okay,
1.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to answer these two value tests. So question number 1 under stand-up meetings says a stand-up meeting is a regular, quick, mandatory, and held with a visual display in the background to support the information sharing. A quick meeting held by the board of directors, normally off-site. A quick meeting held with large groups. So the truth is that you actually don't want large groups when it comes to a stand-up meeting. You want a short, regular, mandatory check-in, and therefore it is A. Then question number 2 says, you would use a stand-up meeting when A, you want to make a quick public announcement, you needed to get a vote from a group, or you needed a forum for the team to discuss progress, review performance, and the progress of improvement actions using a visual aid. That is the most correct. Normally, you would have some kind of visual board that would show this is the target, this is our current performance, these are the quality issues, and that would keep them motivated to be able to focus on those specific areas. Then 3, standing during a meeting means the group is too large for seating to be arranged. The meeting can be kept short and to the point. It will keep the team on edge and paying attention. So the reason that you have stand-up meetings is because it becomes uncomfortable if you keep it too long, and therefore the meeting can be kept short and to the point. Then question number 4. The stand-up meeting would typically include A, a short announcement followed by a general question and answer session, each person taking a turn to raise their agenda and concerns on team performance, followed by a detailed discussion of particular issues. C, a review of the previous day, a plan for the current day's workload, identifications of obstacles to progress, and discussion of underperformance and improvement areas. Now, the third one is really the crux, the spine of every stand-up meeting that should be done every morning. Then question number 5. Good.
Sorry,
Yes.
Ryan, before you carry on, you said number 1 was?
Number 1 is A.
A.
Yeah. Which one did you go for?
Okay, B.
You went for B. Okay. So in this case, it's probably a production environment, and they have specific toolbox talks and those kinds of things. And so that's what a stand-up meeting would look at.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem. Thanks.
All right, no problem. All right, question number 5 says, good visual backgrounds for these meetings include A, visual displays which make sense to the team and show performance and performance measures, pie charts, flow diagrams, and brainstorming lists from previous sessions, and the appropriate use of color and large print which carries the company's sense of vision clearly to the team. The truth is that it is A. It's a visual display that shows performance and performance measures. Okay, so those are the first 5 questions. So if you give yourself 20 marks per correct one, that will give you a percentage for this specific one. But let's go on to the next one, and then we'll come back and see how we did. So facilitating team meetings. So meetings are useful because A, they enable you to interact directly with people who have information about projects or tasks needed by the group and to make decisions as a group based on that information. B, they give you a chance to relax and get into work mode while other people speak on a Monday morning. C, they are a good way to build relationships with your co-workers. Now, it's not really a good idea just to have a meeting on Monday morning to give you a chance to relax. It is also not the best way to build relationships. The right answer is A, because they allow you to interact with people who have information about projects and tasks and also help you to get more information from the group. And question number 2, meeting consists of A, a lot of information sharing and decisions, B, specific processes of discussion covering set topics regularly to keep the team informed, C, content, which is discussed, and process, which is how it was discussed. Okay, so if we look at the question, meetings consist of, well, the truth is it consists of content and process. And if we don't get those two right, then the meeting is not going to be as value adding as it should be. And therefore 2 is C. Then question number 3. Ineffective meetings are A, quite normal, as most people seldom have time to plan them or to bother to draw up agendas or take proper minutes. B, a result of dysfunctional teams, dynamics, or processes. Or C, a result of even one disruptive person taking control and not letting other people have a turn to speak. Okay, now, dysfunctional teams, dynamics, or processes, or one disruptive person taking control, we should actually plan so that those two things don't happen. So the most correct is that most people actually don't plan their meetings, they don't put on an agenda, or they don't take minutes. And that's why we have some very ineffective meetings. So the correct answer for 3 is A. Then question number 4. Getting everyone to participate in the meeting is important, as everybody invited should have a role to play and information to share, or they shouldn't be there. The entire team is responsible for the success of a meeting, even if some people don't know much about the topic being discussed. Or C, some people will get upset or withdraw if they feel that their contributions are not being properly discussed or considered. So, if you're inviting people that don't have anything to share or don't know about the topic, I think that you've got that wrong. Then some people will get upset and withdraw if they feel that their contribution is not being properly discussed or considered. No, absolutely, that sometimes happens, but everybody invited should have a role to play and information to share, otherwise they shouldn't be there. This is the most correct answer, which is 4A. And then the last one. Helping behaviors when in a meeting can include making sure that everyone gets a turn to contribute and manage conflict, summarizing, redirecting, paraphrasing, rephrasing, gatekeeping, repeating, analyzing, and harmonizing, or C, all of the above. The truth is that if everyone gets a turn to contribute and manage conflict, and they can do those things, then it's going to help a lot. So the most correct is C. All right, so for stand-up meetings, please add up your marks. Give yourself a score out of 100%. So for every correct answer, you will get 20%. And then for facilitating team meetings, it's the same thing. For everyone that you got correct, you give yourself 20%, and that would then give you a score out of 100%. Okay, so let's hear, Raiza, how did you do? Did you get 60% or more?
I got more for yes, I got more, Ryan.
Perfect.
80.
So 80.
Yeah.
Now, that's fantastic because your benchmark was in the 60s. So if you're above your benchmark, that means that you are moving in the correct direction. So well done, Raiza.
Thank
Okay,
you.
excellent work. So value tests, those are done. Now what we can do is we can move on to what is going to be the next part of this. We've looked at our value test, facilitating team meetings and stand-up meetings. Now we are going to go to our yellow books. And in our yellow books, we are going to complete question number 16 to question 21. So if you meet me on page number 53 of your yellow books, and we will start there. So POE, page number 53. Okay. Okay, so question number 16 on page number 53. the first thing that they ask us for question number 16 is, what is the purpose of a meeting agenda? So why should we have agendas in meetings? What do you believe? Okay, so the reason we have an agenda is to keep the meeting on track. If we have an agenda, it clearly states what we're going to have the meeting about, and it keeps the meeting on track. What it also does is, if we have an agenda, it keeps the meeting shorter, because if we don't have an agenda, people talk about whatever they want to talk about instead of actually what the most important things are. So what is the purpose of a meeting agenda? It spells out what the meeting is going to cover. It makes sure that people stick to the points, and it makes sure that the time period taken is going to be shorter. So those are the three main reasons why we have a meeting agenda. All right, so I'll give you a minute to just put that into your own voice. And if you've got any more understanding or any more thoughts, you're welcome to put it in for question number 16. Okay, now question number 17. It says, how does one decide what items go into an agenda, and how do you make sure that all relevant items are included? So let's take a step back in order to take that question on. So how would we decide what items go onto an agenda? The truth is, if we don't know why we are meeting, then we're never going to be able to draw up an agenda. So we need to look at what is the objective of the meeting, and then we draw up the points that are important to discuss in order to achieve the objective. And that's going to be our first step. We need to look at what is the objective of the meeting and make sure that we list all the points that are important in order to achieve our objective. But then we can't just stop there, because we've also got other people that are going to be part of the meeting. They might also have good ideas of what to include. So once we've given the first draft, then we can send it out to the participants and ask them if they have any agenda items that need to be added. And in so doing, we're going to make sure that all of the agenda items are going to be included. All right, so you've heard a little bit about the process. Now, in your own voice, for question number 17, you can tell me how you would approach it. So remember, we start with the objective, we list the important points that need to be discussed, then we send it out to the participants, and they can also add agenda items. Okay. Now, question number 18. Why would you record a meeting? Why would you record a meeting? Anyone want to give their insights? Okay. So why would we record a meeting? Well, if people have agreed to do things inside of a meeting, we want to keep them accountable to what they have said that they would do. So that's why I would record a meeting, to keep people accountable. The other thing is we can keep track of any decisions that were made within the meeting. Also, sometimes people who need to know the information aren't actually there. So I would want to distribute it to people who need that information. Also, sometimes they might say, oh, who decided that that was a good idea? And we can use that for evidence purposes. Or if we ever need to, say this is when we had the meeting or this is when we made the decision, we need to make sure that there is evidence, and it creates documentation of evidence, especially in things like compliance issues. Okay, so that's why we would record the meeting. So
We
now that
record a meeting for people who couldn't attend and can also listen later.
absolutely, absolutely. For those who aren't able to be there, but we want them to get the information. So there we go.
Yes.
So that's another reason. All right. So now you've heard a couple of reasons. You can answer question 18 based on what you believe is the reasons for recording a meeting. Okay, so that was question number 18. Now we are on question number 19. How are meetings recorded in your organization? All right, so this obviously depends on what your organization does. So, what are some of the ways that meetings are recorded?
Uh, It's recorded by audio recording,
There we go. So we
video
can do,
recording,
yes,
minutes or notes,
perfect.
transcripts, or action logs.
Wow. Okay, it's okay. If that's in your brain, then that is incredible. So, Raisa, absolutely 100. I couldn't have put it any better. Whatever Raisa said, you put it into your own words. Question number 19, that's your answer. Okay, so that was question number 19. And as Raisa said, there could be audio recordings, video recordings, minutes, action logs, transcripts, all of that is going to be how we record, but how does it happen in your organization? And then question number 20. What techniques could you use to overcome a lack of progress in a meeting due to differing opinions? Now, this happens quite often. Different people have different opinions, and the meeting's not moving anywhere. We're not making decisions. We're not getting to an end point. How does a chairperson deal with that?
Can I just try, Ryan?
Yes, of course.
Active listening,
Very important.
set goals,
Yes, absolutely.
clarifying the problem.
Nice. Okay, so all of those are going to move us in a positive direction, making sure that we're actually listening to what the hell's going on rather than talking over each other, making sure that we have a clear objective in terms of where we are trying to move forward. I think your other one was problem solving, hey?
Yes.
Yes. So what we can do is we can actually start to look for solutions rather than talking about it all the time. So 3 fantastic ways to move the meeting forward. There are a couple more. What you might want to do if there's a 50-50 split and no one's actually going to make a decision, sometimes we need to, sort of say whoever's the most senior in this meeting, they are going to make the decision. Sometimes because they're going to take full accountability, we need them to make that final decision. That's another way. Another way is if we don't know how many people want something and how many people don't want something, we sometimes also take it to a vote. So there's 5 ways to be able to move the meeting forward. I loved yours, Raiza, because they are so critical. Listen, have a clear objective of where we're trying to get to, and then problem solve. So, have that kind of mindset, and we could maybe move forward. Okay, so you've heard of 5. I would say use 2 or 3 and answer question number 20, and that would then answer the question.
So, Ryan, for example, if I say active listening, am I supposed to explain why I'm saying active listening, or can I just leave it as active listening? Like,
I think active listening is describing well what the process is. So active listening in itself is a good enough answer. If you had just said listen, I would say it's not really a technique. So active listening is a technique.
okay,
Using problem solving tools is a technique. In making sure that we have an objective that we are moving towards is a technique. So active listening in itself is a technique.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now, the last question that has to do with meetings and team discussions, it's going to be question number 21. It's found on page number 54. Page number 54. And what you'll see, it says, what is the technique? So explain the following meeting techniques. What is the technique? How would you do this? And why would you do this? So how would you do it? And why would you do it? So we really only have to fill in the middle block and the right block. We don't have to put anything under that summarizing or redirecting or paraphrasing. But all of it is discussed in section number 5, I think it is. Just wait, let me just double check. Section number 5. And so what we can do is we can really just go, okay, the summarizer. So here it is. It says summarizing. Let's take a look at what the summarizer does. It urges the group to acknowledge consensus and reach a decision. Okay, so it summarizes what we agree on and let's make a decision. So acknowledges consensus and reaches a decision. That's what it does. But then why would we do that? Why do we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and we make a decision?
Okay, Ryan, it's to ensure everyone has a clear understanding and to confirm agreement.
Great, great. So to make sure that everyone understands the issue and that there is agreement on the issue. Perfect.
Coming.
So that's why how would you do it? Well, again, you make sure that everyone is on the same page. Here it is. Always look at the first line of all of these. Acknowledge consensus and reach a decision. And why do we do it? So that everyone has agreement and everyone is committed to the decision. Then we're going to do the same thing for redirection. So redirection, again, what is the first line? Prevents the team from wandering too far off the topic. So why do we do that? So that's how we do it. And why do we do that? Well, if people are talking and they're going off the point, well, we're not going to actually get a decision. So it enables the team to find a decision. It also speeds up the process. So that's why. Then we've got paraphrasing. Paraphrasing, again, let's take a look at the first line. It tests the reality to make sure that the decision the team is about to make is doable. So again, we go there. That's how we would do it. We need to make sure that the decision that the team makes is doable. Why? Well, it prevents the team from wasting its time, because if it's not doable, well, then it's a silly decision. So it makes sure that we don't waste time and resources. Then we've got rephrasing. So what is rephrasing? Gets the team back on the right foot by beginning discussions with the questions, how should we approach the task? So it looks at how should we approach the task. So that's rephrasing. How would we do it? Well, we would make sure that we can, it enables us to have an action plan that can achieve our objective. So that's why we would do it. Then a gatekeeper. What does a gatekeeper do? Concerned with team communication and participation, make sure that people are actively listening and understanding each other. That is how it is done. And why would we do it? Because we want people's input. We want better insights. We're going to get better solutions. That is why we need to gatekeep. Then repeating. So what does a repeater do? Builds energy and shows support for people's efforts. Builds energy and shows support for people's efforts. Why do we do that? Because it creates a positive environment, because it makes people solution focused, because it builds team spirit. That's why we're going to repeat. Okay. So I'm going to give you just 3 more minutes just to fill that in, because we did speak quite quickly. So page 54, question number 21, and then we're going to move on from meetings. And I'll show you just the one project that you will have to do back at the workplace, and then we'll move on to inductions. Okay, so ladies and gents, that was question number 21. So let me just show you what your exercise is for back at work. So as a team, you will definitely at some point be doing a meeting with your team. Okay, so next time you do a stand-up meeting with your team, you're going to go to page number 63 and you're going to ask your team members to rate you and then your team members to sign. So let's just take a look at page number 63 so that we are all on the same page in terms of how to do this. So page number 63. Okay, here we are. So a meeting time and place was agreed with me. So make sure that when you have this meeting that a time and place are scheduled. Then is there a meeting agenda? Okay, and were we able to add things to the meeting agenda? That's another thing that they're going to ask the meeting participants. I was encouraged to participate and share my views during the meeting. So during the meeting, you need to make sure that people are asked questions and that they are able to contribute. Then the expected outcomes of the meetings were clear at the beginning. So why are we meeting? What are we learning? The role and the roles of other people in the meeting was clear at the beginning. So why are they there? What are they going to contribute? What information do they have that we need? So we need to make sure that all of those things are spelled out to them. Any differences in opinions were considered and dealt with professionally and in a manner which resolved any immediate problems. So there are going to be times where they might get emotional or talk against each other or have differing opinions, but you as the meeting leader are going to have to make sure that they work together. The meeting outcomes were achieved. So again, at the end of the day, we have to make sure that the objective is achieved. You have accurate minutes and records of the meeting, so make sure that at the end of the meeting that there are records and minutes. If you want to, you're welcome to attach it to this form. Then I am clear on what the expected actions will be as a result of what was discussed in the meetings. Every meeting should have an action plan that goes out after it so that people know what they are expected to do in order to achieve what was discussed in the meeting. Then someone in your team will rate you based on how you ran that meeting. So if you're a 5 out of 5 for those elements, that means that you were perfect. Now, very few people are perfect, so I expect it to be somewhere between 3 and 4. If you are at a 1, obviously you need to just be aware of that so you can work on it. Not everyone is perfect. We all need to grow and develop in some way. Then any comments. So please make sure that the team member that rates you also makes comments to say, yeah, it went a little bit over time, or Johnny was confident in the way that they did things. Mary had a clear agenda and it was very well planned. Anything that they've picked up in the meeting. Then the date of the meeting, you're going to put in over there. And then everyone who was part of the meeting, please make sure that they write their names down and that they sign next to it. Okay, so that's page number 63. That is for the next time that you run a team meeting, and they are going to fill that in for you. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so now, ladies and gents, we are going to go to inductions. And in this case, we need to go to the blue book to go and do inductions and to read about how inductions work and all that kind of thing. So let me just put this up here. Okay, so read section number 2, please. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to please read section number 2 in your blue books, which is called Revitalizing Inductions. It starts with introducing new members to your team, and then it goes on to revitalizing inductions. So if you can read both parts, all right. And what you'll see at the back of section number 2 is an induction checklist. And that induction checklist is going to be a very important part of the process going forward. So just make sure that you understand the induction checklist. All right, so section number 2 in your blue books, please make sure that you read that, and then you go and you make sure that you have some kind of understanding of the induction checklist, which is on the last page of section 2. You will have 12 minutes to read that. now, ladies and gentlemen, now that you have read section 2, which is called Introducing New Members to the Team and Revitalizing Induction, the next step in terms of understanding inductions is to go to our red books again. And in our red books, there is a value test on inductions. And so it should be the second last green page in your book, second last green page, which should say inductions. And there are 5 questions for you to finish to show that you understand inductions. So let's go there. Inductions. Right, so you will have 5 minutes to answer those 5 questions, second last green page in your red book, and then we will go through the answers. So your 5 minutes starts now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go step by step through each question, and we're going to choose the most correct answer. So induction programs are really just an optional extra some companies provide to look good, or some kind of electrical process are vital to introduce a new employee to their job and to make them feel at home from the moment that they start a new position. So the truth is that it takes about 6 months before an employee can actually add value to the business, unless you have got a very good induction process. And so therefore it is vital in order to have a good induction process to make people feel at home. Question number 2. Induction programs should be used A, whenever someone new joins the company or when they are promoted into a new position, only for new employees, only for new employees who seem a bit slow. Now, the truth is that whenever anyone joins your team or is in a new role or new position, we need to do an induction just to get them familiarized with what their role is. So number 2 is A. Question number 3, induction should include A, introducing a new person to their new team, showing them where the loo, their desk, and the office supplies are kept, and then letting them get on with it. Option number B, basic company information, team information, the new job required, pay and hours of work, services and facilities, expectations, policies and procedures, training needs, available support systems, and should answer any questions the new person may have. And C, a welcome to the team in at least a week where they are left to socialize and get to know the team before they start actual work. Now, the first one and the last one are very, very vague. And the truth is that we want to give them as much specifics around their role as possible. And therefore, number 3 is B. Then question number 4. Inducting a supervisor is slightly different because A, it must include management expectations, roles and responsibilities, what authority the person will have, an introduction to industrial relations, union and disciplinary policy and procedure. B, they are at a higher level and deserve more respect. C, it must include a run-through of all workplace policies and procedures, disciplinary grievances and IR information, full knowledge of how the business works, as well as a particular role and accountability responsibility as a manager on a team. So A has got a thorough walking through of what is expected, but C has even more detail. And the more detail we give a supervisor, the more important it is. And therefore, 4 is C. All right, and then the last one in this specific test. A good induction program, A, is just a bonus and not essential to a busy workplace. B, can have a dramatic effect on labor turnover, morale, absenteeism, productivity, reduced industrial relations problems, and higher quality standards. Makes it very clear to a new employee what they may or may not do and ensure that they know their place and what is required of them. So I think C is very belittling. A is very untrue. The most correct is B. It has a profound effect on labor turnover, morale, absenteeism, productivity, and reduced industrial relations problems and higher quality standards. So 5 is B. Okay, so there are your 5 questions. There are your 5 answers. Did anyone get any marks?
Yes, Ryan. Me
Okay.
full total 100.
Full total, 100%. Lovely. That's a great way to do your last value test for the day. So 100% is what you have. Now we're going to go into what we are going to have to cover in terms of induction. Okay, so let's take a look. What is the next step? All right, so it's our at work project. Okay, so this is something that you are going to do with a colleague, or if you don't have a colleague that works with you, you might have to do it to a family member. You just get to drag them in, and you are going to induct a colleague or someone in your home, and you're going to use your job as a reference. Okay, so you're going to pretend that you are moving on to a higher position, but that person that you are inducting is going to come into your position because you know your position well. So let's take a look at how we're going to have to do this POE. So it's from page number 60. Here we go. From page 55. Okay, so here we are. Use your own work role as a basis for the job to induct a person into. As you know your own role well, it should be easier for you to define how you would explain this to another person. Choose a person in your team to be your induction partner to role play the induction process with. Create an induction checklist and plan using the attached checklist as a guideline. You may add to these activities and attach your completed checklist here. Create an induction pack listing all the information that you would need to give to an inductee. Once you have finished preparing for the induction, conduct the induction meeting or role play with your partner and ask them to complete the induction feedback form. Create minutes of that meeting and then swap around, let your partner induct you. Now, if it's someone at work that's not part of this program, you're not going to let them induct you, you will induct them. Okay, so ladies and gents, let's take a look at what needs to be done. The first thing is that you have to create a checklist. Okay, so all of the things that are on this checklist, we need to give details about. So here we go, an induction meeting time set. So I need to get this person and I'm going to induct them into my role, but I need to set a time to meet with them. So what documents and information do you need to do the step? So if you are planning a meeting with someone, you definitely need your diary and you need their diary. Okay, so that's going to be very important. Then the resources needed for the step. Well, you're going to have to probably make time. So if you're doing an induction meeting, probably an hour is how long you're going to take. So I need an hour of time. Notes. What do I need to say or remember to say to do at this point? Well, maybe you want to do it in the morning. That's where, the moment they come in, let them have a cup of coffee, and then in the morning you can have your meeting. So notes, I want to do this meeting in the morning. Now, once you've done it, you're going to tick. Now, obviously, we're role playing this. So everything that we do here is going to be ticked. Then we're going to give them an introduction to the broader team and their roles, as well as the overall team objectives. Now, the documents and info that I need for this step, I'm probably going to need the team targets and maybe the team KPIs. Then the resources needed for this step. I'm probably going to need to print them, so I need a printer. Any notes? I might need to tell them that they won't have to hit the target right away, but that they have 3 months to hit the target. And then, have I completed it? Yes. Then we're going to have to do a general discussion to establish common ground and set the employee at ease. So any documents or information that I need for this step, I probably don't need. Maybe actually I need their CV, because in their CV it'll say where they went to school, what qualifications they have. So I'm going to need their CV. Any resources I need for this step, I might need a meeting room. Any notes? Oh, I've noticed that they come from Belleville. So I'm going to ask them some questions about that Belleville. Then, have you completed it? Yes. Then a take-home moment for a new employee, something special they can tell their friends and family about their first days of work at the project. So what do I need for this? I'm probably not going to need any documents or info, but I'm going to create a take-home moment. So when I worked for Dyno Training, how many years ago? I started there 2016, so 9 years ago. The first thing that they did is they gave me a basket with snacks. That was my take-home moment. So the resources that I need for the step, I'm going to get a box of biscuits. I'm going to give them cappuccino sachets, and I'm going to buy them a new pen. That's going to be the resources for that moment. Notes, I must ask them what their favorite snacks are. So that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to tick that. So what you pretty much do is you are going to go through each of these different elements. You're going to tell me what documents or information you require in order to do that specific step, what resources you might need. Okay, so is it money? Is it a printer? Is it equipment? Is it a place? What do you need in order to do that? Then any notes about specifics that you need to highlight during that part of the discussion. And then when you've done it, you're going to tick it. Okay, so here you go. This is the checklists all the way down. Okay, and then on page number 59, you are going to sign that you have prepared all of those things. You're going to date it on the date that you're going to do the induction. Your manager is asked to then sign and give any comments, and then they are going to date it. So based on your preparation, the checklist, they are going to give comments, they're going to sign, you are going to sign, and you are going to date. Okay, any questions about this checklist? Okay, remember it is hypothetical. You aren't really going to induct someone, so just think of it in a perfect way. What would you do in a perfect world that would induct them and make them feel at home within the first couple of days? Now, the next thing is on page number 60. You are going to list the documents and information that you would need in order to create a pack for this person that is being inducted into your job. So these are the documents and information that they are going to need. Now, one of the ways of doing it is if you look at the first column of your checklist, it says documents and information. So things over here, I'm going to take you to over here, responsibilities of the job. It's going to be a KPI form. That's going to be your responsibilities. Company history, information, or vision. Maybe we have a company newsletter. Performance measures and targets. That's also going to be your KPIs. Role clarification. That might be the job description. Support available. That might be a list of training interventions. The rules, regulations, general code of conduct. That's your code of conduct. And then there was also one about the positions. Where's this one? Okay, so maybe over here, there needs to be a map of importing basics. Where's the toilets, food, and refreshments? Maybe we need a map over there. And we also might need an organogram. Okay, so what you'll see over here, documents and info needed for the step. All the documents and info that you would give to someone on their first day, you are going to list on page number 60. Sorry, I've just gone one too far. You are going to list on page number 60. So over here, induction pack, these are the documents and information. So maybe I'll have a map, I'd have the job description, the code of conduct, the health and safety policy, the organogram, the company newsletter. So what are the documents that you are going to give them on their first day during your induction meeting? Okay, so that's page number 60. Any questions about the induction pack? Okay. Then you are actually going to have this discussion. So now you did the checklist. The checklist is all the things that I need to cover when I do my induction. Now you're actually going to sit the person down, and let's say their name is Thomas. I'm going to sit Thomas down, and I am actually going to go through each of those items. So remember over here, all of these things that we brought in from page number 56 all the way to page number 59, all of those things I'm going to talk to them about. And so we've got a date, okay, the location. So maybe this is going to be the boardroom, the agenda. Well, the agenda is I'm going to put them at ease. I'm going to tell them about their new position. I'm going to explain team targets. So anything that you're going to talk to them about. Names of the people who will be attending the meeting. So that will be you. So let's say it's Noise and Thomas. Then the discussions that you had, so write down anything. They were concerned about flexi time. They are now going to work from 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. They brought up compassionate leave. They are scheduled for a operation in March. So anything that came out of that induction discussion, you're going to note under discussions. Then any decisions made. Okay, so maybe the decisions made is that they are going to bring their own laptop. They're not going to use the company laptop. They also have decided that they are not going to contribute towards the Provident Fund as they have their own retirement annuity. Anything that you have made as a decision during the discussions that you have had. Then any items for follow-up. Maybe they say, oh, you know what, I don't have a stapler. I must find out where we can find a stapler. Also, email address. They need an email address to be set up. So any items that we need to follow up on. Then the name of the person taking the minutes. That will probably be your name. And then the signature of the attendee. So remember, the person that I'm going to induct, they need to sign that they were inducted. And you will sign as the person who did the induction. Then you will see that there is an induction feedback form. So on page number 62, this is where your partner, the person that you are inducting, will fill in ratings based on how you inducted them. So a meeting time and place was agreed with them. Yes. Introduce the broader team and the roles and the overall team objectives. Yes, they did that. I was at ease at the beginning of the meeting. Oh, I felt a little bit nervous. I'm going to give myself a 3 over there. I was told about the basics, where the toilets are, the food, the refreshments. Yes, give them a 4. So the person who you did the induction for, they are going to rate you on page number 62. And then at the bottom, they're going to make any comments about how well you inducted them. Then they're going to put in the date. And so let's say the date is the 3rd of September. They're going to put in their name, the person that you inducted. Okay, so let's say that's Thomas Smith, inductee signature, and then learner signature is your signature. And then that is going to show that you have inducted them, and this is what their impressions of the induction were. Okay. So that then covers induction. So you are going to do a practical exercise with a colleague or with someone at your home, inducting them into your position, and you are going to just fill in the checklist. Then you are going to put together what you would put in an induction pack. Then you are going to have an actual meeting where you're going to fill in minutes, and then they are going to give you feedback on how well you did the induction. Okay, so based on that, ladies and gents, any questions about your practical back at work project? Okay, so we have covered morality and ethics. We have covered the code of conduct. We have covered stand-up meetings. We have covered induction. We have covered the team development tool. You have set benchmarks for yourself in terms of how good you are at developing your team. So in our next session, we really only have 2 things that we are going to need to cover. The first one is going to be what are team objectives? And the second one is how do adults learn, or how do we learn on the job? So occupational learning. So we're going to be looking at those 2 elements. All right, so I will send out invites for that session. And yeah, those are the things that we are going to cover. All right, is there any questions about the process moving forward?